Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Serenity Radiance. I am Chineye Jasmine Ikeme, licensed clinical mental health counselor, owner of Serenity Radiance Mental Health Services, and author of Empowered to Thrive, Taking Charge of Your Mental Health. Today, we're diving deep into stress responses, specifically the four main ways our nervous system reacts to stress: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Now, these responses are hardwired in our biology, but when they become chronic patterns, they shape our work lives, relationships, self-perception, and overall well-being. Now, today we'll explore how each response shows up, and most importantly, how to navigate stress more mindfully and effectively. So grab a snack and let's get started. Now, when we face stress, whether real danger or perceived threat, our nervous system activates the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response, or the parasympathetic nervous system responses, freeze and fawn. These are survival mechanisms designed to protect us from danger, but in modern life, they can become automatic reactions to everyday challenges. Understanding how these responses show up can help us gain control and respond more effectively rather than just reacting on autopilot. The fight response is the body's way of confronting perceived threats head-on. This isn't just physical aggression, but includes emotional, verbal, and psychological reactions. It can show up at work by arguing with colleagues or supervisors, becoming defensive when receiving feedback, or feeling the need to control or micromanage others. It can show up in relationships by frequent conflicts, being argumentative or critical, and using anger to create a sense of power or control, or struggling with compromise. It can affect our self-perception and well-being by high blood pressure, muscle tension, and chronic irritability, feeling like you always have to win or prove yourself to others, or burnout from constantly fighting battles. And now the mindful approach to addressing the fight response would be to 1. Pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this a real threat or a perceived threat? Secondly, practice breathing techniques to regulate anger and other intense emotions. 3. Use assertive communication rather than reactive aggression. Assertive communication involves respectfully communicating your needs and feelings while acknowledging that of others. Secondly, the flight response is about escaping the stressor. It might look like avoiding situations, overworking, or numbing emotions through distractions. It can show up at work by overloading your schedule to avoid difficult conversations, quitting jobs impulsively instead of addressing conflicts, and avoiding responsibilities or even procrastination. It can show up in relationships by ghosting or withdrawing emotionally when conflicts arise, always staying busy to avoid vulnerability, running away from commitment, or avoiding difficult discussions. It can also affect our self-perception and well-being by feeling restless, anxious, or like you're always on the go. Chronic exhaustion from avoiding emotions, and increased risk of anxiety disorders. Now, the mindful approach to addressing the flight response would be grounding exercises like deep breathing and mindfulness to stay present. Gradual exposure therapy to face fears step by step. Therapeutic journaling to process uncomfortable emotions rather than running away from them. Now, thirdly, the freeze response is when the nervous system shuts down, making it difficult to act, think, or express emotions. It can show up at work by feeling overwhelmed and unable to start tasks, freezing in high-pressure meetings or deadlines, dissociating or feeling numb in stressful situations. It can show up in relationships by shutting down emotionally during conflict, feeling stuck in toxic relationships due to indecision, and struggling to advocate for yourself. It can affect self-perception and well-being by feeling powerless or stuck in life, struggling with brain fog or decision fatigue, causes an increased risk of depression. Now, the mindful approach to addressing the freeze response would be small action steps to break out of inertia. Somatic practices like stretching, dancing, or movement to unfreeze the body. And cognitive reframing to shift from I am stuck to I can take one step forward. The Fawn response is about people pleasing as a survival mechanism, often at the expense of personal boundaries and well-being. And it can show up at work by overcommitting to tasks to gain approval, saying yes to everything to avoid conflict and fear of disappointing authority figures. It can show up in relationships by struggling to say no or setting boundaries at one's own expense, prioritizing other people's needs even when it's detrimental to your own, and feeling responsible for others' emotions. It can also affect self-perception and well-being by loss of personal identity, chronic stress from overextending yourself, suppressed emotions leading to resentment. The mindful approach to addressing the freeze response would be practice self-advocacy with small, firm no's when demands are detrimental to your well-being. Identify your core values. What really matters to you versus what do others expect of you? Build your self-worth beyond external validation. Let your self-worth be dependent on how you view yourself, how God views you, and not necessarily about how others view you. Now that we understand the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses, we can begin to shift from automatic reactions to conscious, mindful responses. 3 key practices to regulate stress include 1. Self-awareness. Recognize which responses you default to. Secondly, nervous system regulation. Use grounding, breath work, or movement to reset. Number 3, healthy coping strategies. Develop boundaries, assertive communication, and stress management habits. Stress is inevitable, but with awareness and intentionality, we can move from survival mode into thriving mode. What's one insight you gained today? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need it. Remember, you matter, your well-being is important. Thank you for watching Serenity Radiance. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video.